Welcome, Watermark Church family. It's been a while. It's been about 7 weeks since we all gathered together. And as we all face an extremely challenging global pandemic, we see the Lord working through your prayers, your generosity, your service, your encouragement, and your love. Witnessing your faithfulness only makes us more eager to gather together as a church. Our governor has stated that we can reopen churches at phase 3. California right now is at phase 2. We have started a conversation about reopening with our key leaders. As more details are released in the coming weeks, we look forward to sharing what that might mean for us here at Watermark. We created a task force that have met, so we will be prepared to reopen whenever our state government allows us to. Our goal is in this decision, as is in everything we do, is to glorify God as biblically and as wisely as possible. By God's design, the church thrives on gathering together face to face as we love, care, and encourage one another by doing things like singing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs to one another. As much as we are thankful for technology that allows us for us to do many things online, a biblical picture of a church prioritizes being together in a person. At the same time, the reason above concerning why we gather in person are the same reasons why we are choosing not to gather in person right now. Because the Bible calls us to care and love one another as ourselves. We believe the best thing to do is that in the light of COVID-19 is by not gathering in person. We were to come together for a normal Sunday, the likelihood is extremely high. Lower now, thank God, that unknowing carriers of this distinct and dangerous virus would expose many to it. Those exposed would then scatter to others. All of this would be harmful for church members and guests, as well as people far beyond our church, many of whom are more at risk physically due to either age or medical conditions. For this reason, we believe the best way we can love for our neighbors as ourselves in this unique time is to participate in a publicly indoors strategic containment, including social distancing defined by the CDC. We believe that the wisest way to love is by closing our building. This does not mean, however, that we are closing the activities of the church. Quite the opposite is true. This is a time for us to be united as a church like never before. We're encouraging you to attend a life group in order for you to stay biblically and to remain closely connected to one another as much as possible during this time. We start asking the questions. What if worship gatherings are initially limited? What adjustments will you make for the Lord's Supper and baptism? Or are we going to sanitize and sterilize the church building? Are we going to continue offering children's church? Are we going to continue hosting special events? Are we going to continue provide snacks after the service? Will we continue offering virtual online worship? What is our plan when volunteers step down? Do ushers do their jobs differently or at all? Is this a time to suspend or end our church meet and greet time? Because people may return very slowly to church, how will we count attendance and effectiveness? Should we add or shorten worship service to allow for social distancing? Do we have a plan for reducing expenses if our church offerings don't rebound? Are we going to decrease the fellowship time between worship services? These are some of the questions that we would like to give you answers to in the following weeks. The coronavirus is yet one more reminder that we live in a fallen world of sickness, sin, suffering, and death. Ultimately, none of us are immune to any of these things. But that's why the gospel is such a good news. God has not left us alone in this world of sickness, sin, suffering, and death. He has come to us in the person of Jesus Christ. The greatest news in all the world is that Jesus lived a life with no sin, died on a cross to pay the price for our sin, and rose from the grave in victory over sin and death, over this sickness. Now, anyone anywhere who turns from their sin and trusts in Jesus will be forgiven of all their sin and be restored to a relation with God forever. That means that through Jesus, we never have to fear sickness or death because we know we have eternal life with God. If you don't know that you have eternal life with God, we urge you to put your faith in Jesus. And if you do know that you have eternal life with God, we urge you to share your faith in Jesus with others. Times like this remind us all of the fragility of life and the certainty of death. So let's spread the greatest news that death has been defeated and eternal life is available to all who trust in Jesus. So in addition to trusting Jesus and sharing about Jesus with others, let me give you some other ways you can respond to the coronavirus. First, trust God as the God who is sovereign, creator, and sustainer of life, upon whom we all need to depend. Pray for mercy for the sick, for the doctors, insight for the researchers, and wisdom for our officials. Look for opportunities to care for others, whether they are sick, isolated, marginalized, poor, or oppressed. Even if we are unable to gather at certain times, stay closely connected to the church family. Gather with your life group as appropriate and participate in worship celebration online. And pray with us daily at 10:02. Continue to faithfully give financial offerings online or by mail so that the ministry of the church thrives all the more in the midst of these difficult days. Reflect often on the brevity of life and the urgency of eternity and the beauty of the gospel. We will continue to interact with local and state and federal authorities to ensure we are properly equipped and trained to address the complexity involved in reopening Watermark. We don't feel compelled to do this quickly and won't move forward until we can provide the safest possible gathering for our staff, for our membership, and for our community. By being slow to gather again, we hope to communicate to you and to our community that we love you. In the meantime, we will continue to devote our energy, attention, and resources towards our available ministry avenues, which is virtual, like our life groups and prayer meetings and Sunday morning service. We miss seeing you, but have the love, the opportunity to talk with you and pray you over Skype. We're committed to reopen Christ Church to you, that we will gather again as soon as we can do so in a safe and welcoming way. As your pastor, I all miss you all. God bless.